I'm Sketch. So I was laid off in early April 2025. I was working remotely from Tokyo for an American tech company. People were spread across the world like APEC, EMEA, and the US. Then it happened. Just like many other layoffs shared online these days, the actual layoff took place during US business hours, which meant it was the middle of the night in my time zone, so I had completely no idea. When I woke up, I noticed I couldn't access Slack. I thought maybe my session had expired or something, but nothing worked. Then I tried logging into the company Google account where I normally receive GitHub notifications, but that didn't work either. At that point, I had a really bad feeling. I checked my personal email and there it was. A message, something like important update about organizational restructuring. That's when I officially realized I had been laid off. Later, I checked the company's website and found the official announcement had already been made public. That made it feel even more real. Honestly, it was a terrible experience. Being laid off remotely feels kinda surreal. No goodbyes, no farewell lunches, no packing boxes, just silence. A quiet laptop, a quiet home, that's it. I got extremely anxious. I have never experienced that much anxiety in the morning in my whole career. When you're employed, you just expect a paycheck to come every month, and you don't even think about it regularly, right? But suddenly, that wasn't true anymore. That realization hit me hard. My mind was racing. How can I handle this? How do I get back to normal? So the level of anxiety was overwhelming. This layoff affected 6% of the company, roughly 300 people. That may sound small compared to massive layoffs out there, Microsoft letting go of 9,000 people. But every one of those 300 people had a life, family, and their own story. Like every situation is different, depending on the country they live in, their financial state, and family obligations. So yes, by numbers, it might be smaller, but even if it's just one layoff, it matters deeply to that one person, I would say. So, layoffs. But as a Japanese citizen, I have mixed feelings because in some ways, layoffs also create fluidity in the job market. For example, in Japan, it's difficult for companies to lay off employees due to strict labor laws. It usually only happens when the company is in serious troubles, like something that is close to bankruptcy. That stability comes with a cost while comforting as an employee. It's often said that one reason salaries in Japan haven't increased much over the decade is because people tend to stay at the same company for their entire career. Job changes are rare, and that lack of movement makes the labor market less dynamic. In some traditional companies, even unskilled or underperforming employees can remain in their company for years because the system makes it hard to let people go. This kind of culture limits innovation and ultimately wage growth, I believe. Of course, this ain't the only reason wages are stagnant in Japan. There are many other factors like government policies, an aging population, and the language barrier for international talent. But still, the system isn't really healthy for companies or employees. It protects some people, but it also slows everything down. From that perspective, the American systems make sense to me. There's more job movement, and people are supposed to stay competitive. Companies do layoffs to move faster, like shifting all towards AI right now. That's something I like about American companies. They can act quickly when the market changes. So I'm not saying layoffs are good, but I do understand the logic behind them from a capitalism point of view. But let's not pretend it's all good either. It's a trade-off. That fluidity comes with instability, and right now it's especially painful, right? In 2025, tens of thousands of tech workers have already been laid off. The job market feels broken, right? Behind every layoff is a real person dealing with uncertainty and stress. The economy might bounce back in the long term, but in the short term, many people are just struggling. So yeah, fluidity brings opportunity, but also risk. I've said a lot, but I'm not an economist or a labor market expert. I'm just a regular person who got laid off. And for me personally, it was just one of the worst days in my career, unfortunately. So one of the first things I did after the layoff was to join the alumni community. It might sound weird to say, but honestly, it was a little bit of a relief to see that so many of talented former colleagues were in the same situation. It made me feel less alone. We had some chats, offered support, and people were posting open roles from all over the world. I really appreciated that. It made me realize that what you've lost is just a job. Your network, your skills, your experience, your friends and family, they're all still with you. I think that mindset is really important after the layoff, because in that kind of moment, it's so easy to fall into self-doubt and feel like you've lost everything. But you haven't. The job is gone, yes, but you are still you. And that shift helps you move forward. So don't let the layoff define you. The next thing I did was to take some time to rest, which I think was the most important thing to me. On the day I got laid off, I went out for no reason, just to avoid sitting at home feeling stuck. I had lunch in Ginza, one of the most stylish areas in Tokyo, and honestly, when I was surrounded by fashionable people and luxury brands, I felt like I was the most desperate person there. Anyway, later I did some more random things like watching some of my favorite movies and so on. When you're laid off, you're suddenly free from the pressure of your daily job. No meetings, no requests, no emails to check. And in a weird way, that freedom started to feel satisfying. No responsibilities, no deadlines. I could breathe a little. That's why I think the rest should be the top priority right after the layoff. Even though in my case, I didn't rest for long. But still, giving yourself a short break is essential to let yourself process stuff. Finally, I started researching what to do next, what the best practices are. I came across a great PDF called Checklist for Laid Off or Let Go. I've linked in the description below. It's free, and I'm not sponsored or anything. I just found it helpful. The checklist recommends things like giving yourself time to process your emotions before jumping into job hunting, reviewing your financial situation, creating a daily or weekly routine, and planning out your next 3 months. They were like simple, practical steps. There are also fantastic videos which I've also linked. And of course, shout out to ChatGPT. It helped me in so many ways. Organizing my thoughts, rewriting my resume, and even helping me reflect like I'm doing right now. So ChatGPT, if you're watching this video right now, thank you. Because here's the thing, layoffs are outside your control, but what is in your control is how you respond. For me, just doing something helped me get me out of the passive, why did this happen mode, and into an active mode where I felt I'm taking control. So, doing anything put you back in the driver's seat. That started to make me feel better, not because everything was fixed, but because I was moving forward again. The layoff created some unusual habits in me. For instance, even after receiving multiple job offers, I still found myself checking emails obsessively every morning and practicing LeetCode problems and system design questions. It became almost ritualistic. Being jobless for those months put me in the state of I need to be productive all the time. I couldn't relax unless I was actively doing something. Looking back, I realized I was putting pressure on myself without even knowing it. This kind of pressure is exactly what leads to burnout. What I've learned is that a layoff could affect you psychologically much longer than you might expect. That's why monitoring your mental health is absolutely important. So what's next? I've been job hunting for about 3 months. I might be creating the next video about that. And if you've gone through something similar, I'd love to share your story. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.